Hi, I'm Lena, and this is the story of the condo I bought for myself. I'm 38, an interior designer in Seattle, and that condo was my everything. 15 years of grinding, sketching late into the night on a laptop that wheezed like it was on its last breath, building a business from nothing. The day I signed the papers, I stood in the empty living room, sunlight pouring through the big windows, the air smelling of fresh wood and possibility. The keys in my hand felt like a trophy, heavy with every sacrifice I'd made, skipped vacations, endless client revisions, driving a car so old it rattled like a tin can. This was mine. Every inch of that place, from the hardwood floors to the blank walls waiting for my touch, was paid for with my sweat. I posted one picture on Instagram, just the front door, with a caption, "Home at last." I thought my parents might call, maybe say, "Lena, we're proud." Instead, 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed with a call from Mom. Her voice hit me like a slap. "You bought a condo and didn't even think about Caleb? No hello, no congratulations?" I stood there, frozen, keys still in my hand, trying to process. Caleb, my 35-year-old brother, has been struggling forever. His rent, his jobs, his life. "You know he can't afford a place right now," she said. "3 bedrooms, Lena? What do you need all that space for? You're not even married." I felt my stomach twist. I'd spent years building this moment, and she was tearing it apart before I could even unpack a box. "I worked for this," I said, my voice quieter than I wanted. "This is for me," she scoffed. "Caleb needs stability. You could have at least talked to us first." I didn't know what to say. I just stood there, looking at the empty walls, feeling like I'd done something wrong. But it got worse. Fake contracts, a GoFundMe scam, my niece left on my doorstep like some kind of emotional bargaining chip. They even toured my condo behind my back before I'd stepped foot in it, all because I said no. And the worst part? It wasn't a spur-of-the-moment tantrum. It was planned, calculated, like a script they'd been rehearsing for years. How do you push back when your own family tries to rewrite your truth? That's what I'm here to tell you about. That night, after Mom's call, I couldn't sleep. I sat on the floor of my new condo, back against the wall, staring at the keys on the coffee table. The silence should have felt peaceful, but it was heavy, like the air before a storm. I kept replaying her words. "What do you need all that space for?" Like my life, my work, my dreams didn't count. Like this condo I'd poured everything into was supposed to belong to someone else. That's when it hit me. This wasn't new. This was just another chapter in a story that started way back when I was a kid, when I learned my role in our family, the fixer, the one who picks up the pieces, the one who doesn't get to want things. Growing up, Caleb was the golden child. At 16, he got a brand new Jeep for his birthday while I was still taking the bus to school. When he wanted to study abroad in London, my parents paid for it without blinking, even though he'd barely passed high school. Me? I worked weekends at a coffee shop to cover our electric bill when Dad's hours got cut. I was 18, steaming milk for lattes while my friends were at prom, and nobody ever said, "Lena, you're doing too much." They just expected it. Caleb got new clothes, concert tickets, second chances. I got lectures about responsibility and hand-me-down sweaters that never fit right. I remember one Christmas. I was 20, scraping together money from 2 part-time jobs to help pay Mom's car note. Caleb was backpacking in Europe, posting pictures of himself in front of Big Ben. When he came home broke, my parents threw him a welcome back party. I didn't even get a thank you for keeping the lights on. Another time, Caleb racked up $3,000, 0 cents in credit card debt buying gear for a music career that never happened. I paid it off, working overtime on design projects until my eyes burned. He didn't even say sorry, just gave me that half smile, like I was supposed to be happy to help. When I got into college on a scholarship, I was so proud. I called home expecting Mom to scream with excitement. She texted back, "That's nice, honey." Meanwhile, when Caleb flunked out of his program in London, Mom cried for weeks, cooked his favorite meals, and told everyone he was finding himself. I graduated with honors, juggling school and a job at a furniture store, and they sent me a card. No visit, no call, just a card. I told myself it was fine, that being the strong one meant they trusted me. But standing in my condo years later, I saw it for what it was. I wasn't the trusted one. I was the fallback, the safety net, the one who was supposed to keep quiet and keep giving. This condo was different. Every penny came from me. Late nights sketching floor plans, pitching to clients who didn't believe in me at first, saving every dollar while my car groaned and my social life shrank to nothing. I designed homes for other people, made their dreams real, and now I'd done it for myself. The walls, the floors, the light coming through those windows. It was mine. But to my family, it was like I'd stolen something. Like this condo, this one thing I claimed for myself, was supposed to be Caleb's. He was 35, still bouncing between jobs, still struggling, and they thought I owed him my home because I'd always been the one to fix things. That night, as I sat there, the keys glinting under the lamp, I realized this wasn't just about a condo. It was about whether I was allowed to have something that was just mine, and I wasn't sure they'd ever let me. The days after that call from Mom felt like walking through a fog. I kept waiting for something to shift, for her to call back and say, "I didn't mean it, Lena. I'm proud of you." But the phone stayed quiet, and that silence wasn't peace. It was like the hush before a storm breaks. I tried to settle into the condo, unpacking boxes, hanging a mirror I'd found at a flea market, but my mind wouldn't stop. I spent 15 years building this life, and now it felt like my family was trying to claw it away because I dared to keep something for myself. Then it started. My phone buzzed with a text from my Aunt Karen, someone I hadn't talked to in years. "So happy for Caleb. You're such a good sister, helping him get that condo." I stared at the screen, my coffee going cold in my hand. Helping Caleb? I hadn't said a word to anyone about him, not since I posted that one photo of my front door. I texted back, "What are you talking about?" No reply, but an hour later, my cousin posted on Facebook, "Big congrats to Caleb on his new place. Family always comes through." My stomach dropped. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a story they were spinning, and it was spreading fast. By lunchtime, my notifications were a mess. Old high school friends, people I hadn't seen since I was 20, were commenting on posts I wasn't even tagged in. "Lena's so generous, setting her brother up like that. Caleb's lucky to have her," I wanted to scream. I hadn't set anyone up. This was my condo, my money, my name on every document. But before I could even catch my breath, Caleb posted on Instagram a long, tearful caption about how he'd been struggling and how I'd turned my back on him. He used hashtags like family betrayal and left behind. The comments poured in. How could she do that to her own brother? Some people get greedy when they get money. I hadn't seen Caleb in months, hadn't promised him anything, but there he was, painting me as the villain. Then I saw the GoFundMe. It was linked in his bio, "Help Caleb find a home after family betrayal." The description was a gut punch. Single man, struggling to rebuild after being abandoned by family. No home, no stability, just trying to survive. He'd raised $2,000, 0 cents in a day. Single man? Last I checked, Caleb had a girlfriend and a daughter, but he was playing the sympathy card hard. I clicked through the donors, neighbors, co-workers, even a client I'd worked with last year. They didn't ask for my side, they just believed him. My phone kept buzzing with messages. A girl I knew in college DM'd me. "Didn't think you were like this, Lena. Really disappointed." Another from a guy I'd met once at a wedding. "Family's supposed to come first." I called Mom, thinking maybe she'd clear it up. "Did you tell people I bought this place for Caleb?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She sighed, like I was the one being unreasonable. "People talk, Lena. I might have mentioned Caleb could use a place like that. He's in a bad spot." I gripped the phone tighter. "A bad spot?" "He's 35, Mom. I worked for this. It's mine." She went quiet, then said, "You've always been so independent. Caleb needs help. You could share." Share? I'd been sharing my whole life. My time, my money, my energy. I hung up, my hands shaking. The next day, Dad called. His voice was calm, measured, the way it always was when he wanted to guilt me into something. "We've always supported you, Lena. When you started your business, we were there." I almost laughed. They'd lent me $500.00 once for a design course, and I'd paid it back with interest before I was 25. "This isn't about support," I said. "This is about you thinking I owe Caleb my home." He didn't argue, just said, "Family steps up. You're better than this." I ended the call and threw my phone on the couch. Better than what? Wanting something for myself? It didn't stop there. A week later, I got an email from a law firm. A thick envelope arrived, certified mail, with a letter claiming my condo was family property because of prior verbal agreements that I'd promised it to Caleb. Verbal agreements? I'd never said a word about giving anyone anything. The letter demanded I resolve the matter or face legal action. I sat at my kitchen counter, staring at the pages, laughing, but not because it was funny. It was absurd, but it was real. They were coming for my home with lies dressed up in legal jargon. Then came the worst part. I was at my studio, sketching a client's dining room, when my neighbor texted me, "There's a stroller on your porch." I rushed home, heart pounding, and there she was. My niece, Mia, 4 years old, asleep in her car seat, bundled in a pink blanket. A suitcase sat next to her, with a note taped to it. "Your family, Lena, do the right thing." No call, no warning, just Mia, left like a package. I carried her inside, my hands trembling, and checked my security footage. Caleb's girlfriend had dropped her off and walked away without looking back. This wasn't help. This was a trap, a way to make me feel like I had no choice but to give in. I sat there, Mia sleeping on my couch, and realized this wasn't just about a condo anymore. It was about control, about whether I'd let them keep writing my story for me. I sat in my condo that night, Mia still asleep on the couch, her little chest rising and falling under the blanket. The note from Caleb's girlfriend was crumpled on the counter, those words, "Do the right thing," burning in my head. I couldn't think straight. My family had already spread lies, faked legal papers, and now they'd left a 4-year-old on my porch like some kind of emotional grenade. I wanted to believe this was just them being desperate, that they didn't know how else to reach me, but deep down I knew better. This was calculated. Another move in a game I hadn't even realized I was playing. Then my phone buzzed with a message from a name I hadn't seen in years. Jamie, a friend from college. We'd lost touch after graduation, just life pulling us in different directions. Her text was short. "Lena, we need to talk. It's about Caleb." My heart skipped. I didn't know why, but something told me this wasn't just a check-in. I called her right away, pacing the kitchen, keeping my voice low so I wouldn't wake Mia. "What's going on?" I asked. Jamie didn't waste time. "Caleb came to me last year asking for a loan. 10 grand, said it was for a business idea. I lent it to him because he swore you'd back him up, that you always did." I stopped pacing, my grip tightening on the phone. "He said what?" Jamie's voice was steady but heavy. "He told me you were buying a condo for him, that you'd promised to help him get settled. Said it was a done deal, that you were taking care of family like always. I only realized he lied when I saw your Instagram post about your place." I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. Caleb hadn't just been riding Mom and Dad's coattails, letting them guilt me. He'd been out there, planning this, telling people I was giving him my home before I'd even signed the papers. Jamie kept going. "When he didn't pay me back, I pushed him. He sent me texts bragging about how he was going to make sure you came through. Said he had a guy who could whip up some paperwork to pressure you. Lena, he wasn't joking. I've got the messages." She forwarded them while we were still on the phone. I opened them, my hands shaking. There it was in black and white, Caleb's words, cold and calculated. "Lena's too soft, she'll cave if we push hard enough. Got a contract ready to scare her, another one, she owes me, always has." I read them again, then a third time, waiting for it to feel less like a knife in my chest. This wasn't just my parents' blind favoritism, or Caleb playing the victim. He was the one pulling the strings, orchestrating this whole thing. The rumors, the fake legal threats, maybe even Mia on my porch. My brother, who I'd bailed out, covered for, believed in, was betting on breaking me? I thanked Jamie, my voice barely above a whisper, and hung up. I stood there, staring at the texts glowing on my screen, and something shifted. The hurt was still there, sharp and raw, but underneath it was something else. Clarity. I wasn't just fighting my family's expectations anymore. I was fighting a plan Caleb had set in motion long before I bought this condo. He didn't just want my home. He wanted to make sure I'd never say no to him again, and for the first time, I knew I wasn't going to let him win. Jamie's texts were still open on my phone. Caleb's words staring back at me like a confession I never wanted to see. I stood in my kitchen, Mia still sleeping on the couch, her tiny snores the only sound in the condo. My brother had planned this. Every rumor, every fake document, every guilt trip. He'd bet on me folding, on me being the same Lena who paid his debts and ate the blame. But something in me snapped that night. I wasn't that girl anymore. I wasn't going to let him, or my parents, or anyone else rewrite my life to fit their script. The next morning I called a lawyer. Rachel was a recommendation from a client, someone who'd called her a bulldog in a courtroom, but calm as a lake outside it. I sent her everything, the fake legal letter claiming my condo was family property, the GoFundMe page, Jamie's screenshots, even a photo of Mia's car seat on my porch. Rachel didn't sugarcoat it. "This is intimidation, not law," she said. "The contract's a sham. No notary, no witnesses, just scare tactics. But we need to move fast. They're banking on you staying quiet." I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. Quiet was what they expected. Not this time. I started documenting everything. Every text, every voicemail, every comment on Caleb's Instagram post calling me a traitor. I saved the GoFundMe page before it could disappear, took screenshots of the donors, the lies about Caleb being abandoned. I even filed an incident report with the police about Mia being left on my porch, not to press charges, but to have it on record. I wasn't playing their game anymore. I was building a case not just for Rachel, but for myself. If they wanted to twist the truth, I'd have the receipts to set it straight. A few days later, Caleb upped the ante. He posted a video on Instagram, eyes red, voice shaking, looking like he'd been crying for hours. "I thought Lena was my sister," he said, staring into the camera. "She promised we'd share this condo, that she'd help me get back on my feet. Now I'm out here with nothing, and she's locked me out of her life." He paused, wiping his face, and dropped a link to the GoFundMe. The comments exploded. "She's heartless. How do you do that to your own blood? Money changes people." I watched it 3 times, my jaw tight, waiting for the hurt to hit. But it didn't. I was done feeling guilty for lies I never told. I called Mom one last time, hoping maybe she'd see reason. "Caleb's lying," I said, my voice steady. "He's saying I promised him my condo. You know that's not true." She sighed, long and heavy, like I was the one breaking her heart. "Lena, he's struggling. You've always been so strong. Can't you just help him this once?" I laughed, sharp and bitter. "This once? I've been helping him my whole life. I'm done." She went quiet, then said, "You're tearing this family apart." I hung up and stared at my phone. Tearing it apart? They'd been tearing me apart for years. That's when I decided to fight back for real. I sat at my desk, the one I'd built from reclaimed wood, and opened my laptop. I pulled together everything: Jamie's texts, the fake contract, screenshots of Caleb's video, the GoFundMe lies. I wrote a post, not angry, not vengeful, just clear. "This is the truth," I started. "I bought my condo with my money, my work, my years of sacrifice. My family is spreading lies to take it from me. Here's what they won't tell you." I attached every piece of evidence, time-stamped, undeniable. I hit post on Instagram and Facebook, my heart pounding, not sure what would happen next. It didn't take long. Within hours, my inbox was flooded. Friends I hadn't heard from in years messaged me. "I had no idea, Lena. I'm so sorry." A client I'd designed a nursery for wrote, "You don't deserve this. We see you." Strangers commented, sharing their own stories. Sisters who took everything, parents who played favorites. The GoFundMe started losing traction. People were tagging it, calling it a scam. By the next day it was gone, pulled for misleading content. I didn't feel like I'd won. I felt like I could breathe again. Like I'd finally stepped out of a cage I didn't know I was in. But Caleb wasn't done. A week later, I was at my studio sketching a client's living room when my phone rang. It was Rachel. "You need to see this," she said, emailing me a new document. It was another fake contract, this one claiming my parents had invested $20,000 0 cents in my business back in 2010, entitling them to a share of my condo. I almost dropped my pencil. Invested? They'd never given me a dime. I'd built my business with 2 maxed-out credit cards, and nights so long I forgot what sleep felt like. Rachel was calm. "It's another bluff, but it's bold. We'll counter if they push it." I went home that night, exhausted but clear. I sat on my balcony, the Seattle skyline twinkling in the distance, and called Mom again. "If one more lie comes out of your house," I said, my voice like steel, "one more fake paper, one more post, I'll take every screenshot, every text, and make it public. I'm not afraid of you." She didn't say anything, just breathed into the phone, then hung up. For the first time, I didn't feel like I was begging for their approval. I was drawing a line, and I meant it. After I posted the truth, the world felt different, like the air had cleared after a long rain. My phone wasn't buzzing with hate anymore. The comments calling me heartless slowed to a trickle, replaced by messages from people I hadn't expected. Old coworkers, clients, even strangers who'd seen my post. I went through the same thing with my sister. One woman wrote, "Thank you for speaking up." Another, from a guy in Portland, "You're showing me it's okay to say no to family." I read every one, sitting at my kitchen counter with a mug of tea gone cold, letting their words sink in. For years I'd felt alone in this, like I was the only one carrying a family's weight. Now I saw I wasn't. The GoFundMe was gone, shut down after enough people flagged it. Rachel called a few days later with more news. Caleb's lawyer dropped the claim, she said. No case, no threats. It's over. I was in my studio, surrounded by fabric swatches and half-finished sketches, and I just said, okay. It wasn't a cheer or a cry. It was a door closing, clean and final. Caleb's name started fading from the gossip around town. A friend told me he'd applied for a job at a local bar and didn't get it, that people weren't buying his sob story anymore. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. The truth was doing its work. My parents tried to pull me back in. Mom left a voicemail a week later, her voice soft, like she was trying to smooth things over. We're having dinner Sunday, Lena. Just family, no drama. We'd love to see you. She paused, then added, You don't have to bring anything. I played it twice, waiting for the old guilt to kick in, that tug to run back and make everyone happy. It didn't come. I deleted the message and turned my phone face down. I wasn't angry anymore. I was done trying to fit into their version of family, where I was only as good as what I gave up. I started making the condo mine, not just on paper, but in my bones. I painted the living room a soft sage green, the kind of color that feels like a deep breath. I hung a canvas I'd painted myself, a messy abstract thing with blues and golds, nothing perfect, but it was me. I rearranged furniture, swapped out lamps, built a little nook by the window with a chair and a stack of books I'd been too busy to read. Every change felt like a step away from the chaos, like I was carving out a space where I could exist without apologizing for it. I'd spent so long designing homes for other people, making their dreams real. Now I was doing it for myself, and it felt like coming up for air. One evening, I sat on my balcony, the Seattle skyline glittering under a purple dusk. I thought about Mia, how I'd taken her to her mom's the day after she was left on my porch, how her little hand squeezed mine when I said goodbye. I thought about Caleb, how he'd looked at me growing up, like I was his safety net, not his sister. I thought about my parents, how they'd never once asked what I wanted, only what I could give, and I realized something. I didn't need their apologies. I didn't need them to understand why I'd fought for this condo, for this life. I needed space to be me, and I'd given that to myself. The messages from strangers kept coming, piling up in my inbox like letters from a world I hadn't known existed. A woman in Ohio wrote about cutting off her parents after years of manipulation. A young guy in Texas said he wished his mom had stood up for herself the way I did. Each one felt like a thread, connecting me to people who got it, who'd carried the same kind of weight. I didn't reply to most of them. I didn't know how, but I read them all, late at night when the condo was quiet, and they made me feel less alone. I started to see the fight differently. It wasn't just about a condo or Caleb's lies or my parents' guilt trips. It was about whether I was allowed to want something for myself, to build a life that wasn't defined by what I owed. For so long I'd believed saying no made me selfish, that protecting myself meant I was failing as a daughter, a sister. But sitting on that balcony, the city lights stretching out below, I saw it clear as day. Loving myself wasn't betrayal, it was survival. I'd spent years letting my family twist my story, weaponize my silence, but I was done. This condo, this life, this moment, they were mine, and no one could take that away. Sitting here now, in my condo with the sage green walls and the books stacked by my window, I feel a kind of quiet I didn't know I could have. It's not just the absence of chaos. No more fake contracts, no more voicemails dripping with guilt, no more kids left on my porch like bargaining chips. It's the quiet of knowing I fought for myself and won, not because I beat my family, but because I chose me. That's what I want to leave you with, because if you're listening, maybe you felt this too. Maybe you've been the one who's always supposed to give, to fix, to bend until there's nothing left of you. For so long, I thought setting boundaries made me a bad sister, a bad daughter. I carried that guilt like a backpack full of bricks, always there, always heavy. But here's what I've learned. Protecting your peace isn't selfish. It's how you survive. Love doesn't come with a contract. It doesn't demand you erase yourself to prove you care. It doesn't twist your story or use your silence as a weapon. And if there's one thing this whole mess taught me, it's that healing sometimes means walking away, even from the people who raised you, the ones who were supposed to love you best. I think about Caleb sometimes, about the brother I wanted him to be, the one I kept trying to save. I think about my parents, how they built a world where I was only as good as what I gave up. But I don't carry their weight anymore. I've got my condo, my work, my life, and it's enough. More than enough. It's mine. And every time I walk through that front door, I'm reminded that I didn't just buy a home. I built a space where I get to be whole. So, I want to hear from you. Have you ever felt like the backup plan in your own family? Like your dreams were always up for negotiation, but theirs were set in stone? Drop your story in the comments, even if it's just a sentence, or the name of your city. If this hit something deep, leave a purple heart so I know you're out there. And if it didn't, tell me why. I want to hear that too, the real stuff, the messy stuff. This isn't just about me talking into a void. It's about us connecting, about finding each other in the stories we don't always say out loud. If you want more stories like this, ones that dig into the hard truths and come out stronger, hit that subscribe button. This channel isn't just content. It's a place where we can be honest, where we can heal together. I've made peace with the quiet, with the life I've built. Maybe you're ready to do the same. You're not alone in this. I see you, I hear you, and we're in this together. Thanks for listening.